After master artists stencil out the design, junior carvers follow behind, tracing out the pattern. The carving at Angkor Wat is remarkable. The master carvers achieve an incredible depth of image in a remarkably small depth of stone. In 2 to 3 centimeters, there is a foreground, figures in the middle, and someone in the background of the same space. The endless carvings and bas-reliefs, while impressive today, would have looked very different 900 years ago.
The shine is because of 1,000 hands touching it. But in fact, when the king himself came here and examined it in its heyday, all this would have been covered in gold.
The stones still bear traces of their additional adornment.
And here you can see still the remains of that gold the king would have seen, and he would have been able to view these magnificent reliefs in which they would have literally shone in golden sunlight. This relief shows his grand army on the march. They're traveling through a thick forest, and the great war elephants here each carry one of his generals. But below here we see the Khmer army, the infantry. Look at them. They are absolutely proud, erect, and in great military order.
This army was vital to Suryavarman's survival and the prosperity of his new empire. When he seizes the crown, Suryavarman launches attacks to extend his empire into Vietnam and Myanmar, soon covering 360,000 square kilometers. But the empire was so enormous, it took hundreds of thousands of workers to build and maintain. How would Suryavarman feed them all? The answer can be found about 20 kilometers south of Angkor Wat, in the Tonle Sap Lake. The lake is connected by the Tonle Sap River to the Mekong. But in the summer, the volume of tropical rains combined with runoff from the Himalayas pushes up the Tonle Sap River into the lake, drowning forests of trees and quadrupling its size. And when the lake retreats, vast plains are covered with fertile earth for rice cultivation. Suryavarman's subjects cultivate 2 and sometimes even 3 harvests of rice a year. Not only can Suryavarman feed his workers, but there is also surplus production. While much of the world is practicing subsistence agriculture, Suryavarman generates revenue to pay for mega projects like Angkor Wat and for wars against his neighbors. Just as one cannot conceive of the Egyptian empire without the Nile, the great floodplain of the Tonle Sap feeds the growth of the Khmer kingdom and the megacity at its heart. The scope and scale of the Khmer Empire means that Suryavarman's workers have many great building traditions to draw from as they construct the temple. The height of the 1,532 columns means that the stone-on-stone friction is not enough to keep the features of the temples safely in place. Suryavarman's engineers rely on another great building tradition, carpentry.
The temples themselves were all constructed in stone, but the people lived in homes made of wood. They were great woodworkers. We know what the houses and palaces look like because we have them represented on some of their stone reliefs.
Looking at these pieces of carved stone, it is clear how woodworking influenced the way the stone was cut and carved.
You can see how they were decorated and chiseled away in just the same way that the wood was chiseled into patterns and forms.
The techniques of joining the stones show a similar influence.
You can see the way that the timber would have been a prototype to the way in which the stone was also cut so that you could have neat and mortise and tenon jointing. And so the woodworker and the stoneworker were working in harmony, one with the other.
Based on their knowledge of how shapes interlocked and exploiting the natural weight and friction between stones, Suryavarman's teams produced the soaring details that make Angkor Wat famous.